Can a medium connect with someone's spirit right after they pass or even when they are close to death?
I've experienced this, and there's a history of it in my family, actually.
I could see the loved ones coming, gathering at the bottom of the bed.
I believe spirit visits everybody as they leave their loved ones. They learn that they are now infinite.
He was in my dream and he went into my sister's dream.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. I'd like to welcome to the show another amazing panel of mediums. And today we've got a big question that we're going to ask. And it has posed a little bit of controversy in the mediumship world. But firstly, welcome to the show, guys, and thank you for coming in.
Hi.
Oh, come on, we can do better than that. The listeners can't see the waves. All right, we're going to get started into who does what, who's who, and how they do it. So first up, before we, and this is before we get into the question, I'm going to introduce Christian. Christian, if you'd like to tell people where you're from and a little bit about what you do.
Well, I live in the Bronx, New York City, but I'm originally from the Midwest, and I'm an evidential medium and trance medium, and I also do tarot readings for people who want them, or intuitive readings if they want that.
Nice. Alicia.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us. I am living somewhere in New England. Actually, I'm in New Hampshire at present, and the screen behind me would be what's going to be happening in about a month. So kind of excited. I am an intuitive. I am a medium. I am a trance medium. I also specialize in synchronicity and how it connects for healing purposes.
Fantastic. And I love that background. That'll be so pretty when that happens. We look forward to seeing the photos. Just saying, no pressure, but anyway. Amelia.
Yes, I am in East Gippsland, Victoria, Australia, and I'm a medium, but I love healing work, and that's my main thing that I love to do.
Fantastic. Julie.
Hi, I'm in Pennsylvania in the United States, and I'm a psychic medium. I do tarot and all different modalities of readings, and I'm also a paranormal investigator.
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Elena.
Hi. Okay, so I'm in Ireland, just by the way. I'm an evidential medium, and I also do the angel cards.
Fantastic. All righty. And that's our beautiful mediums for today, and all very gifted and talented. And I can honestly say that truthfully because I've known you all for many, many years. All right. So the big question is, can a medium connect with someone's spirit right after they pass or even when they are close to death? Now, there's been, as I said prior, a lot of controversy in the mediumship world. Some people say, no, you have to give them weeks, months to pass, or, that they've been on the other side before you can make communication or connect with them. Other people say yes, but the old way, and we'll say the old way is a lot of people say no. So that being said, we're going to start with Christian to give you some stories and information on their own personal experiences on how this has come about and what you guys have experienced with this question. Is it true or is it not? Christian, take it away.
Well, it is true that spirits can come to you right away as they die, right before they die, right after they die. I've experienced this, and there's a history of it in my family. Actually, my great grandmother Sally Hatfield, on my mother's side, her husband, my great grandfather York Hatfield, died in Washington State when she was living in Eastern Kentucky. And he appeared to her right after he died. And so she knew that he was dead. And this was before the days of like everybody having phones. Okay, so the police had to actually come to her door and inform her the fact that her husband was dead, and she already knew that he was dead, when they came to the door. So she was able to, she just said like, York's dead, isn't he? And they were like, yeah. So that happens. And it's happened to me as well with former boyfriend I had, as well as with my mother. My mother appeared to me when she transitioned to spirit, and I didn't get the official word that she had died for another 6 hours. And what's interesting about that, the timing of her appearance to me pretty much corresponds exactly to the time of death in the hospital. So I know it can happen that way. But if the question is, and the controversy is somebody, coming to a medium immediately after their loved one has died and expecting that medium to bring through that soul, that's a different question. That's basically sort of putting a demand on a medium to contact someone specific. Okay, so that's a very different animal. And so that is something that is much more difficult. When spirits transition to the spirit world, there's a lot of stuff that goes on pretty immediately, and they're busy spirits. Okay, making that adjustment, doing their life review, attending their memorial. There's a lot going on. So it's really up to the spirit to come through if they want to come through, if they have the opportunity to come through. So I would suggest if people really, really, really want to hear from their loved one, okay, that they do heavy meditation and put the intention out there and invite their loved ones to come to them in their dreams. And that is more likely to work than, going through the emotional pressure of trying to find a medium and set up a meeting and trying to get your loved one to come through at that time. Because the reality is, people who are grieving are generally harder to connect to than people who are through most of their grief. So anyway, that's my opinion.
And so for people who might say, Christian, well, that's easy for you to say because you're already a medium to connect with a past loved one. If the regular person out there who's not a medium, not practicing spiritual work, might think, well, how would I even do that?
Well, you do that by setting the intention. The exercise that I recommend to people is, write down the name of the person they want to hear from right before they go to bed. Write it down. I invite so-and-so to communicate in my dreams. Do that 5 times right before you go to bed. Okay, so that it goes into your subconscious. Do that up to 7 days in a row. Usually by the 3rd or 4th day, you'll get a vivid dream, with that person in it communicating with you.
Yeah.
But you have to have the discipline to, try the exercise and do it and follow through on it. Okay. And your grief might not allow you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great advice for those that, again, like I said, may think, well, I'm not a medium and I don't do this spiritual work. So that's really great exercise for people to do and practice. And again, like you say, taking into consideration grief as well, because that does play a huge part in intention. You know, the emotions can always get in the way at that time. So yeah, thank you, Christian. Alicia.
Hi. Yeah, that's a really great question. I've been doing this for quite a few years, and a long time ago, one of my first clients, and I was old school, OG, right? We did everything by the book, right? This happened, this happened, this happened. So you're correct, Michelle. You were told that they need this transition period and they have to get sorted. And then here we are. Then you can connect. And I'll never forget, I was sitting on my studio and I was giving this woman a reading. And it was a gentleman that had committed suicide, had hung himself. And I'm giving the reading and she's crying because she's still in grief, you understand. And sure enough, she said, I didn't think my brother would come through because he just passed not even a week ago. And I said, and that's when I said, oh, good Lord, was he astral? Then I was questioning myself because the rule stated this couldn't happen. And I said, I don't know. Then about a year later, my father was in hospice, and I was, of course, a practicing medium at that time. And I was doing trance work then a lot. And Spirit told me when my father was going to pass, how long it would be. And I will never forget, I was laying by his bedside. I was standing by his bedside. He couldn't communicate any longer. And I was holding his hand, and he was very afraid to die. And I said, they're here to get you. And I could see the loved ones gathering at the bottom of the bed. And I said, look. And he opened his eyes. He looked at the bottom of the bed. And I said, you can go now. And he looked at me, eyes wide open, smiled, and then closed his eyes and passed. And I stood and watched him walk my mother out of the home, where he was at hospice. And it was like an astral because he was still in the hospital gown, but he was walking her out the door. So 100% that we definitely can connect, and they can connect with us if need be. But as you stated, and Christian stated this, that the grief can be so difficult that the loved one just isn't going to come and put their other loved one who is there for the reading through that. They wouldn't do that because they're there to bring joy and happiness and proof of the continuity of life. They don't want us to be sad. They want us to be happy and joyful. And that's where they're coming from. So I think if you're trying, just like Christian said, to contact someone, and you're thinking it's not time, maybe it's not time for you yet. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe that's the intuition speaking. And as far as that goes, the signs, they will give you signs. If you can't handle one-to-one communication, cardinals, feathers. A lady always looks at dimes. Another lady's smiley faces, she'll find them everywhere. And that will give them the same amount of comfort as if they were communicating one-on-one.
Yeah. And it is so important to pay attention to those signs, isn't it? It's a very subtle, but I want to say easy way for spirit to communicate through those signs, those, leaving those little gifts for their loved ones who are still here. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And even my father, 3 days after his passing, I was feeling a little bit guilty for helping him cross it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he was so afraid to die. And here I am telling him, just go, carry on, And I was feeling guilty, like, did I do the right thing? And 3 days later, I was in a pub, and the karaoke was going on. I'm drinking my Coke, and I hear this man singing Eddie Arnold's song, Make the World Go Away. And that was my dad's favorite song. And I thought, oh, geez, there we are. There is the sign. I did all the right things. Make the world go away. Get it off my shoulders. And I'm like, yes, yay. So, look for those signs because they're everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And again, you got that closure on that guilt. And so quickly, just by paying attention to the signs, the song. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And to be able to see your dad leaving with your mum, that's wow. That's incredible. Oh, thank you for sharing, Alicia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Em.
Yes. Well, I definitely do believe that spirit, in fact, I believe spirit visits everybody as they leave their loved ones anyway. And my reason for thinking that is when I was 8 years old, I think it was, my grandfather actually had Alzheimer's and was in a care facility. And when he passed, obviously my parents would have been notified, but I hadn't known. It was through the night, and in the morning my mum had come into the room to let us know, but before she could say a word, I said to her, Nonno died. Now that's the Italian version of grandfather, and I was excited and she was actually quite shocked. But the reason I said that is I'd had what I thought was a dream at 8, where he had come to say goodbye. And in his presence, he said, I've just come to let everyone know that I'm okay and I want to say goodbye. Let everyone know. And I said, but where are you going, Nonno? And obviously I'm talking to him, knowing that he's in a facility, and I'd never really known him to have a conversation because he had Alzheimer's. He didn't know who I was or anything like that. So I had very limited, knowledge of, we used to play games with him and things like that, but he never really, had a communication with us much. And so I was excited and I said, where are you going? And he says, don't worry about where I'm going. Just let everyone know I'm okay. And I said to him in shock, you're speaking English, Nonno. And because he'd only ever spoken Italian. And he said, yes, I am. And then at that moment I went, oh, because I realized his lips weren't moving. And so I didn't know what telepathic meant at that time, but it was all very exciting to me as an 8-year-old. So when my mum walked in to tell us that Nonno had passed, I said, Nonno died. And I was so excited, and she burst into tears, and it did not go well after that. But she did listen to me patiently. But So definitely, he came to visit. And that same night, my cousin also had a dream. Hers was a bit different, and she saw a coffin and all sorts of things. And my auntie also had a dream. So I kind of came away thinking that spirits do visit their loved ones straight away. I suppose maybe while we were sleeping, it was easier to go in a dream. I'm not sure, but it was definitely a visit, I think, for all of us to experience that. And some of us remembered and some of us didn't. But yeah, and even just more recently, a girlfriend of mine had her father pass away, and we were speaking last night actually, and she reminded me of a few pointers that were really important to her, or markers as such, because she'd had someone else that had told her, no, you can't, they can't visit you that quickly, or something to that degree. I mean, I don't know what these rules are as such. And I have very specific rules if I'm going to read for a friend, because I know too much information. So they have to come through with information I possibly couldn't know. And he came through with not only information that I didn't know, he came through with information that she didn't know and had to go and do research, which then later on, when she discovered that information, it was very exciting for her. And one of the things that came through that I thought was quite important was, unbeknownst to me, in the last sort of 3 weeks, I think it was, she said before he passed, he no longer spoke English. He only spoke Spanish. And when he come through to me, he basically spoke Spanish and was giving me, physical clues and so forth, and spoke Spanish to me. And why that's so interesting is because I knew of their family dog. So I said, and don't bring through the dogs or animals that I know. And he, funnily enough, brought through a dog and said, and showed me this dog that was quite a large dog, and I could see the top of its head was all dark colouring. And I kind of saw the size of it, like it was a large dog. I thought it was a cross of some sort, but I couldn't sort of pinpoint exactly. Anyway, long story short, they said they didn't know of this dog. The mother didn't know of the dog. The sister didn't know of the dog. And they were flicking through photos and then found an old photo of him with a German Shepherd cross that matched perfectly. And I said to her, was the dog's name Pedro or something like that, Pedro? And because, not speaking Spanish and not having that accent. And she's saying, no. And then they found out the dog's name was Zurich. And I thought, oh, no, that's definitely not it. I don't know. I said, that's not a name I heard. Anyway, about a couple of weeks later, they were talking amongst themselves and they worked out that the word pero is how you say dog. I mean, sorry for my pronunciation if anyone's Spanish, but that's how you say dog in Spanish, which
Wow.
I don't know that, if you know what, I don't have that ability. So, yeah, he's obviously just said the dog or this dog or something like that, and I thought it was the name, but that's actually how it's called. So that was something that was really exciting for all of them to hear. And the other exciting thing that she really enjoyed was that in this family of 4, he was the only male, and he took the longest to get ready. And he showed me the outfit they had put him in the coffin with, and he thought it was fantastic and was very proud of how good he looked. And they said that was so perfect because he always took the longest to get ready when they ever went out anywhere. So, and they were so happy that he was happy with the outfit that they had picked for him. So, it's amazing what the loved ones will come through with. It always makes me smile. And yes, it brings tears, but it also brings joy to the people. Hearing, like I said, stuff that they didn't expect, and I certainly didn't expect. And it's always very exciting for everybody, as well as emotional, obviously, but it brings a joy to people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's proof as well, isn't it, that they exist after they pass. I mean, for him to tell you about his suit, you know, and what they buried him in and so on and so forth, like that's so evidential.
Exactly. And I must say that I have been to several funerals, and I actually was at his funeral, and I actually saw him. And they said it was so typical him, which I wouldn't have known. And I didn't really particularly want to say anything at the time, but being she was a close friend, I did say to her, he was dancing at the front of the church near his coffin. And they said that would so be something he would do. And I have seen several people at their funerals just sitting with different people or so forth. So they definitely are around after they pass, in my opinion, and what I've seen.
Yeah. And that's so comforting to know, isn't it? And some people have said, but how can they be with multiple people at once? How is that possible?
Because they're in spirit. And
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, omnipresent. Actually, I think it was you that mentioned not too long ago to me about how can he be, maybe it was you, a father or someone who, how can he be with you but be with them at the same time? There was that confusion of, hang on a minute, how can he be in two places? But what people don't realize is spirit is omnipresent. It's energy.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I could go on and on. I remember being at the death of another friend's, her father when he passed, and he always said to everybody who would listen that I'm going to go out with a bang. And shortly after he passed, and I witnessed loved ones, you know, bit like Alicia said, loved ones being present in the room before he passed. In fact, even the dog was in the room and left the room because it literally felt, you know, too many people were in the room. I thought anyway. When he passed, about, I don't know, I'm going to say about 10, 15 minutes possibly after he passed, there was a loud banging in the street and all the lights went out in the whole area. And it calmed the whole room, and then the candles were lit, and it just changed the presence and energy of everyone. It was a beautiful thing to witness, I must say. But he definitely went out with a bang. And it might have even been like 5 minutes. Like, I couldn't tell you the exact time. I probably should have contacted my friend and asked her. But yeah, it was such an amazing event to experience.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I love how he fulfilled exactly what he said he wanted.
Exactly. And that's what lightened the mood of the night, because, you know, obviously he passed and everyone was quite emotional in the room. And then when everyone heard that loud bang and all the lights go out, it kind of lifted everyone's spirit, because it was a real clear message from him. Yep, I went out with a bang.
Yeah. I love it. And the timing, just impeccable, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you, Em. Julie.
Yes. Hi. I have to agree with all the things I've heard here. I believe I've experienced them as well, either personally or professionally. I think that what I would add is occasionally there might be a delay in communication because of the circumstances of the person passing, or as Christian referred to, the person seeking a reading or information may just be so overwhelmed. And Alicia mentioned signs. Sometimes you just can't see them. It's after the fact that you see them. Lots of times that will come up in a reading, like, I sent you a sign, remember the song, that kind of thing. But something I'd like to mention that I think is really interesting from my perspective. I have had the opportunity to read for someone who lost someone, and it was only 2 days. I didn't know that when I was reading for her at all. I had no idea. But the spirit on that day came through very hesitant and showed me things. And I feel like they of course, are in a new space and learning new things, right? So as they learn to communicate, later from our perspective, after time has passed, they can just show up in our readings and be like, hey, this, and this, but maybe in the beginning, it's a little bit, for me, it was a little bit more like a feeling, like this spirit felt very hesitant, and I didn't see him as a grown-up. I saw him as a young boy, which is what he wanted to remind the person of. And I would see kind of glimpses that looked like photographs from his perspective, but the evidence was there. The emotion was absolutely there. I believe that I've had the opportunity to read others with the same past loved one kind of repeatedly over a period of time. And what I have experienced from that is their soul developing because of the communication going on between their loved ones and those who have passed. So the deceased become more comfortable with communication, or talk about things going on in their loved one's life. They'll enter their dreams. They learn that they are now infinite. They are comfortable with their consciousness being wide. It's not held down in a form. It can be everywhere. And then spirit just keeps surprising me. So as soon as I say this, they're going to go do something new. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that explanation that they're infinite and they suddenly become wide. That's a great way to look at it and put it in reference that is very understandable for everyone.
Yes, and they're always teaching me about, what heaven is. It's their perspective or their belief system and how that works. So that also is a factor, of course. So if someone passes and they believe that they can't communicate, it might take them a little bit.
Yeah. That's so true. And again, like you say, this is a great example of so many people think that heaven is just one place. It looks like this. That's it. That's how it has to be. But like you say, it's the perception of the spirit I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they keep developing and growing. Some of them get jobs. I don't know. So.
Yeah. It's almost like another life continues on after that, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is, certainly is fascinating. Thank you for sharing, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elena.
Hi. So I definitely agree with everything that's been said. And I have a personal story about the dreams as well. But firstly, I will just quickly tell you when my brother passed away. It was only, I would say, it was within the first week. It was only a few days later. And, at the end of the day, we may be mediums, but we're also human. So I was standing in the kitchen and I wasn't cooking or anything. So there was no smoke, no nothing. And my partner was in the lounge watching TV and I was in the kitchen and I just said to him, look, Philip, if you're around, just give me a sign. Just let me know you've passed okay, you're there, even though we know they did, but it's still, And the next thing, the brand new fire alarms that had only been put in a few months before and have never done this before, decided the top one just started going off, but for no reason. And I didn't have to turn it off. It stopped itself, right? And it's never done that ever again. In the last 2 years. So I kind of went to him and I said, I know that was you, but I just want to make really sure it's you. Do something else, right? Now I'm still in the kitchen at this point and David, my partner, is in the lounge and he shouted at me and he went, Elena, what are you doing? And I went, why? And he went, the tally just went off. And I said, that wasn't me, that was my brother. So he gave us like another sign. So that was amazing. And the other thing with my brother, he always pops in. He pops in a lot. But what he did do one night is he came to me in a dream, and he took me to what I call the Heaven Restaurant. Now, I never called it, I didn't know there was one, but he took me to this restaurant, and there was David's family who had passed were there. They were at other tables. So other spirits that had passed, they were all in this restaurant that, like, having dinner and stuff. And it was when I woke up the next day, I said to my mom, my brother took me to the Heaven Restaurant, which now I refer to as this restaurant in heaven where, I meet spirits in my dreams. And just my father passed away recently. And he as well, what happened was he came to me in a dream a couple of days later. Because it's like Christian said, if you're grieving and they can't get through to you, because we do grieve, even as mediums, we do, they'll come to you in a dream. So he came to the dream and he didn't really say anything, but he was wearing very distinctive, like he was wearing his jeans, which he normally wears, but he was wearing this blue denim kind of button shirt, which I've never seen him in. He never wore that, right? And anyway, so I couldn't wait to tell my mum the next day because she was grieving still a lot. And I said to her, Papa came to visit me, and this is what he was doing, this is what he was wearing. And anyway, so later on that evening, she messaged me. She said, "Did you tell your sister about your dream?" I said, "No, I haven't spoken to her. Like, I hadn't spoken to my sister at all." She said, "Well, she just messaged her and said that she had the same dream that night of him wearing the exact same thing, doing the exact same thing, just standing there observing, because that's what he used to do. And he was wearing the exact same clothes." So I think he picked this out because my mum said this is a shirt she bought him years and years ago that he didn't really wear. So he picked that shirt to stand out. And that answers also the question. He was in my dream and he went into my sister's dream at the same night. And I also had South African family in my dream, and so did she. So it wasn't until my mom said about it that I then spoke to my sister, and we were like, this is, same, everything was the same. So that was really amazing. And, besides when my Oma, that's what you call grandma in South Africa, when she passed, I knew she passed before I was told that she came to see me. So I think, yes, they can communicate with you. It depends, like what everybody else has said, depends on your grief or how open you are at the time. I had to tell my mom, she's like, "Why can't I get a dream? Why can't I do that? Why can't I see him?" And I said, "Because you're grieving and you're probably not seeing it." I said, once, you work through a bit of your grief, you'll see the signs, you'll start seeing them. And that's exactly what happened. She's still grieving, but it's not like the first few days. And now she's signs all over the place. So he's very busy there as well. But yeah, so I do believe strongly that if they need to come through to you and they know when is right for you, they will, they'll find a way. I know David's brother, before I met him, and it was only shortly after he died, and his sister and them got a medium in. And this particular medium told them that he's using the energy from his grandparents to come through, because he's only just passed and he didn't have the energy to come in. So he said he's using the grandparents. The grandparents are helping him come through. So that proves to me again, like they'll come through, they'll find a way,
Yeah, wow. And look, Elena, all those are very relevant and evidential stories, experiences that you've had. And I love that your dad wore a shirt that really got your attention and your sister's attention, your daughter's attention. It was your daughter's attention.
No, my sister.
Your sister's attention.
Yeah.
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 To really confirm that it was, and to remember.
Yeah. And he presented at the same age as well, which was, they present different ages, but he chose this particular time when he looked this particular way, because we both described him to my mom as seeing him this way. So that just added to the,
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah. And again, so many similar stories, but different. And the proof and the evidence is there. And if only, we can all expand our mind to understand that they can be everywhere at once. They can present themselves in any way, shape, or form, whether it be physically seeing it with your eyes, signs, all that coming through in dreams. It's just incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Has anyone else got anything they want to add to that, or anything else they want to share around that?
I have to say what Elena just said about the energy that was it the grandparents, Elena, that gave them the energy? I call it, and I don't know why I call it this, ushering them in. It's like, I don't know why I call it that. I have no idea, but I will say, well, your mother's here, or whomever the person is that they're not looking for to come. And he said, but we're looking for someone else. And just 1 minute, and then I will say, oh, here is this gentleman. And I said, grandmother was just ushering him in. It's like that energy flow. So that's really something important, Elena, because sometimes they just don't have the energy, or they're quiet. They were, they're not extroverted and going to talk a lot. So they're quiet and shy, and they need someone to speak for them. I've gotten that as well.
Yeah.
To bring them through. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important for people to know if they do go to a medium, like you said, Alicia, someone else may come through first, but they're helping to usher someone else in, to bring someone else in. That's, again, something really important to understand. And I mean, look, as mediums, we can't work miracles. I mean, we try. We can't always work miracles where, no, I want this and this is how it needs to be. It's not always how it works. Spirit knows what you need, and Spirit knows best. And, that's something that we honor and respect. But it's such an interesting topic. And myself, I was able to connect to my mother-in-law when she was in an induced coma just before she passed. And it is exactly like Em said, when you know someone and you know too much about them, you want information that you don't know as evidence to the family that this is really them, that this is really happening. And she was able to bring me evidence of people and things that I didn't know. So that was important for the family to hear that, to understand. And it brings so much peace to the family as well, in knowing that, okay, they're okay. What they're witnessing physically is not always what they're actually spiritually going through. And that in itself can bring so much healing before the passing and help with the grief after that, in knowing that they are where they want to be, they are where they need to be, and they were suffering while they were here. The physical body was suffering, but the spirit is free. And I think that's something that if you can find that peace and you're able to experience that even for yourself, that is the greatest and, to me, the highest form of healing, and closure for a lot of people. So, yeah. Wow. Incredible stories, guys. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add? No? We're all good? Silence? That means we've covered everything. That means we're thorough. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and share your experiences with the world. It means a lot, not just for me, but it means a lot for everyone out there who is perhaps going through this right now, has been through this, is, on the border of knowing that a loved one is going to go into hospice. And this can give a lot of people hope, freedom, understanding, peace, and healing in knowing that there is more. There is more than just the physical body. There is more than just seeing the suffering of a loved one. And that's the beauty of the work that we do. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. And I will put the links below to each and every one of you should anyone want to reach out and connect. And thank you once again. And for all of you, wherever you are in the world, have a great day, evening, and morning. And I look forward to having you all back again very, very soon on the Medium's Table. Thanks for joining me at the Medium's Table. The universe is always speaking. Listen and let your spirit soar. Curious for more? Click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe.